I never used to like the LEGO Star Wars games. This stemmed almost entirely from the fact that I have a genetic condition called older sibling, and sometimes I'd have to play the game with my younger brother, which took me away from the cartoons I could have been watching. If you're also an older sibling, I'll bet you can relate to this on some level. Not that I was any better, mind, I'm also a younger sibling, and I know it used to drive my older brother nuts when he had to play my games. In his defense though, most of them were shit. My point is though, the only thought I ever really had on LEGO Star Wars The Complete Saga for the longest time was, it's that game my little brother liked. So when I went into the Skywalker Saga, I didn't go in with any real expectations. My childhood wasn't on the line because I used to exclusively play Mario Sunshine and SpongeBob SquarePants The Curse of the Flying Dutchman or whatever it was called. The Skywalker Saga is the same basic idea, a LEGO retelling of the mainline Star Wars movies with the dark serious moments replaced by plastic toy people being stupid, and I was curious to see what this game could offer.
I need someone to show me my place in all this.
LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga is, as said a moment ago, a retelling of the main Star Wars movies, those being episodes 1 to 9, only done through the medium of LEGO. As the stories are being retold using literal children's toys, some of the darkest moments seen in the movies, such as Sidious enacting Order 66 and slaughtering the Jedi Order, and Han Solo being brutally murdered by his own kid, are tweaked to be a bit less miserable, and certain events are portrayed slightly differently to suit the format. When you first boot the game up, you'll get the choice of playing through The Phantom Menace, A New Hope, or The Force Awakens, with the rest of their respective trilogies being unlocked by completing the previous episode. The game is a third-person action-adventure that sees the player control groups of characters from the movies who all have their own class and specific skills that you'll need to use to traverse the levels. The levels are, of course, based on the events of the films that they're retelling, albeit sometimes rather loosely, but again, we can forgive this because the developers are attempting to build an entire interactive world from a non-interactive source. I don't envy the teams who have to do this, because an audience engages with TVs and movies a lot differently from the way they engage with video games. You can't just hijack 20 minutes of our time in-game to have the plot happen without our involvement, but then of course some movie/TV events really aren't suitable for the interactive medium that is video games to begin with. I also don't envy the poor saps who had to go to work every day making a playable version of episode 9 that people might give a crap about. I'm kidding, obviously. I feel bad for them having to make any of these movies worth giving a crap about. I kid. Sort of. Let me explain myself. The original Star Wars trilogy is mostly alright. It has some pacing issues, and the action, of course, feels slow today, which does make sense. There are some decent plots at the core, but I find these films hard to watch due to their age. The prequels had vision and did their best to world build. After all, we saw so little of the galaxy before now, and it was cool to witness one of the biggest events in the galaxy's history, even if some of the plot points make zero sense and a lot of the dialogue was annoying. The sequels, though, were an absolute mess, with them going from repeating Star Wars to trying something new and nearly sticking the landing, if not for some unnecessary plot points. Then the final film felt as if it was being made up as filming went along. Fucking Rey Skywalker. To me, the best Star Wars content is found in the Clone Wars and the Rebels series, as well as Fallen Order game and the frankly delightful Rogue One, mostly because these outings did a much better job of exploring the characters within the universe. So what I'm saying is, when we step away from the mainline movies, we see the best, most polished content. Now, with my thoughts out there, how was playing through a video game adaptation of the mainline movies with plastic stand-ins for the characters? Well, not great. I know Star Wars fans are particularly vitriolic, so let me clarify. Skywalker Saga isn't offensively bad. It's not really good, but I didn't absolutely despise my time playing it. Mostly. Let's look at the gameplay first. It's very straightforward and even has some of the same elements as LEGO Star Wars The Complete Saga, these being almost consequence-free deaths and a greater focus on finding collectibles rather than engaging with the main challenges of the level, though the latter is fine as there doesn't seem to be a lot of challenges in the levels. Before everyone crawls out of the woodwork to tell me it's a kids game and to temper my expectations, I'll remind you that just being a kiddie game is not an excuse to be boring. Children's media doesn't have to be so utterly toothless, even if a lot of its target demographic is. I'm a weird person, I'll admit. Whilst my family and friends like to settle down and watch whatever dark gritty shit is on Netflix right now, I'm tucked under a blanket either binge watching Bluey or rewatching The Owl House for the 99th time, and both are primarily aimed at younger audiences, yet still remembered to be engaging and charming in their own right. Kids are people too, they deserve good quality entertainment, and the same goes for their video games. If you make a video game for children, by all means keep it accessible, but don't forget that a lot of us were children when we started gaming, and let's face it, we all played the adult games before we hit our 10th birthday. Don't lie to me, yes you did. It's okay, I'm not your mum, you're not in trouble. I'm the cool aunt. You play those FPS games and violent RPGs all you like, because we all know by now that video games don't cause violence. I played GTA San Andreas as a kid and I'm yet to commit a single traffic violation, much less mass murder an entire city because I summoned a tank from another plane of existence. Kids are not as dumb or basic as a lot of creators seem to think that they are. Still, I remember how the Complete Saga played, and Skywalker is definitely an improvement in the gameplay department. Combat can be more than just mashing one button until you win. It often isn't, and you'll have no reason to make it more complicated than that, but you can do combos in melee melee, which is neat, and I like that you cannot just mash the ground pound to win every encounter, as it's fairly weak this time around. I also like how the game is a bit more zoomed in and ranged characters can be aimed properly. I'm not sure why the game decided it needed to have a cover system and health regen, but my old nemesis just couldn't leave me alone, and now he's brought his annoying sister, but then again, you can ignore the latter completely, which 9 out of 10 times I did. I only ever used the cover system when I wanted to check my phone, but didn't just want to pause the game, because otherwise I'd have a long recording of just a pause menu, and that's not exactly exciting to sift through. The combat, though, isn't the main thing. It's not why the game wants you to play it, so an obvious question then, why are we here? Well, it's because of the complete saga and LEGO games in general. See, they're more about finding collectibles than anything else, with Skywalker's main collectibles being mini-kits and kyber bricks. Between the levels themselves, there are these segments which you can explore, and they're packed with NPCs who will tell you where you can find more of the bricks, and the puzzles that also lead you to the bricks. What do you need the bricks for? Class upgrades. Only thing is, they're really not that useful. See, the downside to the game not having a dedicated failure state is that no matter how many times you bite it in a level, you'll always reassemble right back where you were and be able to continue from there. So why would you ever need to upgrade your health or your damage or increase the passive skills of the classes themselves? Well, you don't. I did a bit of upgrading to use the bricks that I had. The first trait I went for was the one that made you pick up the in-game currency from a greater distance away, and this automatically made one of the challenges 100% easier, as each level has a currency score to reach, and when you do, you get a reward. What is the reward? Well, another brick. In the main levels, you have these mini-kits that you can collect to unlock an extra vehicle for the vehicle sections, which is neat, and the flying and space segments are pretty engaging. Only issue is, there's really no reason to seek the ships out unless you really want them for cosmetic reasons. The ships don't have any logistical differences, they seem to handle about the same and shoot at the same rate, so it really is just cosmetic, although I do like cosmetics and I can't really complain there. If you collect all of the kits in a level, you get another brick, but once you realise that the bricks are basically worthless, then you might wonder why you are bothering unless you really want a specific ship.
The youth of today. They try so hard to emulate our appeal, yet never quite get there.
Oh hey, Complete Saga, I have to agree with you there that the Skywalker Saga, whilst being more technically impressive with polished visuals and more expansive levels, ultimately feels like a cheap imitation, not to offend or anything.
You couldn't defend me, my child. I am aware of what I am and where my appeal lies. I admit, my combat might not be much, and the puzzles I offer are hardly puzzles at all. Yet, I am remembered fondly by the younglings for a few simple reasons, things that the Skywalker Saga is simply lacking.
And please, do tell us what they are.
Well, I'm a rather charming old fool. So much work and attention was given to the way my characters move and behave, to the little details in the levels, and of course, the sight gags that manage to make a darker moment lighter, without completely undermining it. And, of course, the collectibles. I do those far better as well.
Well, let's have a little go, shall we? You are right, I have much to learn, my master. Also, can I get a pink lightsaber with, like, a rainbow handle?
Is everything you want, Queer?
Yeah, pretty much.
I'll see what I can do.
So because I was curious to see how well the original saga held up, I went back to play it for a bit, and whilst it is a bit more basic in terms of combat and puzzles and challenge, if you can even call it a challenge, the game is indeed a much more charming game that manages to make its unique collectibles a joy to track down. The collectibles are also mini-kits for extra ships. Some of them are just a complete joke, but like intentionally so. They're actually quite a good joke. I do love the fact that you can pilot an AT-AT when I'm meant to be piloting a fast speeder. It's stupid and I love it. I also love the red power bricks because, sure, some do give you a legitimate gameplay advantage, but most of them are just silly little visual details that make the game even more of a delight. I was more than happy to go back and dig through entire levels just to see what I'd missed. Like here, these battle droids are just minding their own business, playing cards, and this disco we set up on Camino is adorable, and sometimes I just liked the level itself. There's just something about it that I enjoy. The game isn't a challenge, so to speak, but I find some of the areas just to be weirdly satisfying to move through, and I love that we can make our own little custom heroes and give them whatever powers we want them to have. Though the best part to me is the lack of voice acting. LEGO games need to stop the whole voice acting thing, as it undermines some of the charm the game's meant to have. The Skywalker Saga isn't necessarily a bad game, not very challenging, with rather pointless feeling collectibles and a needless upgrade tree, but largely inoffensive as long as you mute the voice lines. The thing that really rubs me the wrong way though, and I hate that I'm about to complain about comedy yet again, but here we are. I promise next week this won't be a thing. Is the attempts at humour. They lack the subtlety of the complete saga, and do keep in mind, I never used to pay attention to the game when I played it years ago. I'm not simply saying this because of nostalgia bias, I just prefer my sight gags to be less in your face, you know? Or better yet, just be charming about it. Here's a fun little detail from the complete saga. Luke's lightsaber is thrown to him by R2 and the bad guy catches it instead and then politely hands it over to Luke so he can proceed with the ass kicking. The fact that no words are spoken only makes this all the more charming and lovable. Here's a scene from the Skywalker Saga of the Emperor talking to the clones, only he gets the order number wrong, you know which order we're talking about, and some funky music plays, and this is literally just a gag from Robot Chicken.
Execute Order 67!
When you're stooped at nicking jokes from Adult Swim, then fuck, man. By the way, if you find any of this stuff funny, that's absolutely fine. I'm not making a comment against you, I'm simply saying that I don't personally enjoy this style of comedy. Again, ultimately the game isn't bad. It is a bit tedious with the between level bits, and it doesn't really seem to understand that there's a bit of an art to comedy, but at the core, it's not the worst way to distract those kids you regret having. The game does support local co-op, which is nice, although I don't have a spare controller, so I had no one to play with, but hey, being able to play with your kids is nice, right? Is it? I ain't a parent, I wouldn't know. Though judging by the existential dread I see in the eyes of those with children, I guess I could be wrong. So that was the Skywalker Saga, a game that just kind of exists, you know? I really hope this week would be a more positive video, as I've been a right negative Nelly these past few weeks. We'll try to change that. I have a feeling that next week's topic will go a bit smoother. No spoilers though. Thank you for being here again. If you made it this far, tell me in the comments what is your most favourite and least favourite thing from Star Wars, you know, be it movies or characters or events or something. Just tell me, I like to know these things. Also, please consider becoming a patron if you enjoy my content. When I get to 150 patrons, we're going to do a little Q&A episode where you can just ask us whatever you want to ask us and we'll answer it, so that should be fun. So, thank you again, I love you all, and we will see you next week.